Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Monday. You have Alyssa Corbin, Ken Shreve here with a look at the stock market today. And on today's show, we're going to be breaking down the action for the major indexes. Tech taking the lead today, along with falling yields, Ken. And you have three stocks that we're going to take a look at what's on tap.
Well, I think it makes sense to look at semiconductor stocks because the chip stocks helped the NASDAQ to a 1.2% gain today. So we'll look at ASML and the chip equipment group and also take a look at Boeing and Element Solutions, which have pulled back and are retesting prior buy areas.
All right, we'll check in on those. First, a look at the major indexes. Here is the NASDAQ, as Ken mentioned, gaining 1.2% for the day. So a little off of session highs, trying to get right up to that 50-day line. We had the Dow up 0.3%, the S&P 500 up 0.7%, and the Russell 2000 down about 0.8% for the day. So the NASDAQ, it's trying to make a comeback here. What do you think, Ken?
It is. It had a nice reversal higher on Friday. Options expired, so we had above average volume on Friday's session. So the volume comparison was going to be tough for today. We're still kind of looking for that sign of strength in the NASDAQ, a good higher volume gain. So it looks like volume is going to come in a little bit lighter than what we saw Friday. I would say at this point, you can see the NASDAQ just for a little while today popped above its 50-day moving average, but it ended up closing just below it. But really at this point, it's about the NASDAQ getting over last week's high on March 16th. It was a Tuesday. So I think that if the NASDAQ is going to break out of its downtrend here, it's going to have to get over Tuesday's high from last week. So not out of the woods yet, but encouraged to see pretty good action in semiconductor stocks today.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of tech stocks have suffered a lot of damage and need time to repair, but there are a number of decent setups out there, which we'll get to quickly. Just want to look at QQQ, which tracks the NASDAQ 100. A big gain today, but still not even yet quite at that 50-day line. So here, would you also be looking at last week's highs, which correspond to some highs a couple weeks ago as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the Qs actually bled a little more than the Nasdaq into the close. The Qs kind of closed off their highs. Didn't quite get to the 50-day moving average today, but yeah, I'd put the Qs in the same position as the composite. I think if it can break out over Tuesday's high from last week, it would do a lot to strengthen its technical picture. But we'll have to wait and see if it happens. In recent shows, with Ed and Justin, we've just been talking about the fact that there was a lot of damage, a lot of heavy volume selling in the technology sector that it's probably going to take a little time to repair. It doesn't mean that the Qs and the NASDAQ composite can't start new uptrends, but again, let's see if they can get over last week's high, and we'll go from there.
And Ken, you mentioned strength in semiconductor stocks. So let's take a look at ASML, which is in the semiconductor equipment group. A strong gain today, over 5% above average turnover. And after hitting some resistance right around that 50-day line, it's now solidly above that level.
Yeah, I mean, the chip equipment group is still where much of the leadership is in the semiconductor sector. We have three different industry groups that we track in the semiconductor sector. We've got the chip equipment groups, which ASML is a part of. We've got chip makers. We've also got chip designers. So by far, the strength in the semiconductor sector is still in the chip equipment group. Obviously, there's a well-documented shortage of chip stocks for a lot of these automakers. But ASML is based in the Netherlands, and really like the gap above the 50-day moving average. This is just a classic example of a stock that has now started forming the right side of a base. We'll see if it can get closer to that 600 level, but this is pretty decent looking chart here. It's just starting the third week of that right side, and we'll see if it can form a good base here.
All right. A lot of stocks to keep an eye on in the chip sector. And Boeing is another name that we want to take a look at. Down, it looks like for the second week in a row here, Ken, after a very strong week a couple weeks back, but it's trying to hang out around that 250 level. Do you think that that's an important area for Boeing to seek support?
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the past three sessions, Thursday, Friday, and today, volume has gotten a little bit or a little bit lighter on Friday and Monday during its decline. So price action looks a little erratic on the daily chart, but this is just what a classic retest of a prior buy area looks like. So at one point, it became too far extended from that 244.18 buy point, but it's started to pull back in light volume, holding the 250 level for now, but for those that want in on Boeing. It's down five out of the past six trading sessions. So you want to see a nice rally and heavy volume. And I don't like buying a stock when it's going down, but it is
Mhm.
retesting a buy area. So you get a nice up session for Boeing, and you could nibble at some shares here.
All right, sounds like a plan. And let's check in on Element Solutions in the specialty chemicals industry group, pulling back to its buy point after a breakout not all too long ago as well. And we've been paying more and more attention, Ken, to names in this chemicals group. So tell us your thoughts here about ESI.
Yeah, what's interesting is that some of these chemicals makers have exposure to the technology sector. So Element Solutions makes specialty chemicals that are used in the making of electronics hardware, like circuit boards, for example. Some of their product is also found in the semiconductor business. So there is some tech exposure here with Element Solutions, and yeah, really like the way this one has pulled back. Volume was heavy Friday when options expired. But look at the
Mhm.
nice tight action on Friday where it really didn't move much at all. So it's testing its 21-day moving average right now. The buy point here was 1950, so it's trading right around that right around that buy area. Same situation as Boeing though. This is just a good test of the buy point. If it starts rallying again, you can start a small position for try a small position on for size, but still like a lot of these chemical sector stocks, and Element Solutions looks to be one of the leaders in the group.
So there are a number of actionable opportunities or stocks that are really setting up and just waiting maybe for a nice update after pulling back into a buy zone here, Ken. So what do you think that the quality of setups that we're seeing? What do you think that that says about the overall market conditions at this point?
Yeah, I mean it's still very difficult in the technology sector. I mean, a big reason behind the Nasdaq's gains today was strength in the chip
Mhm.
equipment companies. When you look in the Nasdaq 100, it was KLA and Lam Research and Applied Materials. So a lot of chip equipment firms acting well today. But when you look in the software sector, for example, again, enterprise software, security software, it's difficult to find actionable charts there. So some semiconductor charts look interesting, but when you look at the whole tech sector as a whole, there's still a lot of former leaders that are trying to overcome pretty nasty sell-offs. Still a lot of stocks like PayPal, below their 50-day moving averages. A lot of these names are going to need more time to base. So not going to entirely give up on the reopen trade here that had
Mhm.
been working nicely in recent weeks. But good to see the Nasdaq strengthened today. It's not out of the woods yet, like I said. We'll see if we can get over Tuesday's highs, and hopefully leadership will start to broaden out again.
Well, thank you so much, Ken, for that analysis. And thank you all for tuning in. The conversation is going to continue tomorrow morning on IBD Live. Make sure to check it out, our daily morning live stream. We're sharing our screens talking about actionable stocks, ones that are setting up, overall market conditions, portfolio management tips, and more. So you can tune in over at investors.com/IBD Live for that. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow evening.